Welcome to the North Shore Fire Department Board of Commissioners meeting. Amy, if you can do roll call for us.
Yes, good evening. Commissioner Admin,
Here.
Commissioner Pratt,
Present.
Commissioner Byers is absent. Commissioner Webster,
Here.
Commissioner Woolham,
Here.
Chief Cowan,
Here.
Legal Counsel Matt Paxton,
Here.
Chief
Forms.
Orms,
Here.
and I'm Board Secretary Amy Oakley.
Thank you, Amy. Moving on to public comment. Did you get anything ahead of time?
No public comments in advance.
Okay, if there's anyone that would like to make a public comment, if you could raise your hand. I see Mr. Marin. And it looks,
Good closure as well.
I was gonna say, is that a hand? I can't see it. Okay.
So it's the first one.
Oh, okay. So, Mr. Marin, you have 3 minutes.
Well, thank you. Tonight, you will be discussing options for pursuing a SFD NFD merger or regional fire authority. I only know that because I attended the February 27th special meeting. There are no meeting materials included in tonight's agenda that would help a potential attendee understand the discussion before you tonight. I've made this request before. Please include meeting materials that are available to the fire commissioners. Finishing the presentation at the last minute is not a reason to keep potential attendees in the dark. Every time I speak with you, I let you know, and I'll do so again. Your job as fire commissioners is to represent the best interests of the citizens and taxpayers of the district. It's not necessarily the same as accommodating the wants and the needs of the firefighters or the Shoreline Fire Department administration. Essentially, tonight, you're considering ways to increase your taxing authority so that you can continue to raise taxes on the citizens of the North Shore Fire District. As I said in your last meeting on February 27th, I doubt very much you will address the underlying issue of cost control. I was correct. The topic of cost control did not come up during your February 27th meeting. First, I urge you to slow the merger RFA process down. Make sure you connect with your constituents. The city councils of Lake Forest Park and Kenmore need time to consider how they can and should participate in the governance of an RFA. The taxpayers need information and time to understand the impact of these potential changes, especially since just a few years ago, many of you campaigned against the fire department merger, identifying a number of reasons why a merger was a terrible idea. If that were true then, what's now changed? You need to do your due diligence in assessing the impact on taxes on the King County District citizens of North Shore, and what the service level impacts will be. My experience in researching a partnership with SFD is that North Shore Fire District will end up substantially subsidizing SFD. The reality of a merger with Shoreline Fire Department is grim for the North Shore taxpayers and citizens. Shoreline Fire Department demand for service is increasing dramatically, as is the need for additional personnel and equipment. The North Shore Fire Area demand for service is static. North Shore Fire Departments will pay to subsidize Shoreline. I do not believe you have a revenue problem. I believe you have a spending problem. At your last meeting, I detailed several examples of imprudent spending. You have committed the department to millions of deferred expenditures 25 and 26. You do not have the taxing authority today to meet the wants you have identified. NFD is the only entity whose tax bill went up for 2024 for Kenmore taxpayers. Tax collection increased by 8% for NFD. The tax rate went up 25% from 23 to 24. I urge you to slow the RFA merger process, take time to get it right, fix the spending problem, regain the confidence of your citizens before you change governance or move to raise taxes. If you not do this right, you will certainly face opposition at the ballot box. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wanted to make a public comment? If you could raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the meeting agenda as presented.
Like that.
Thank you. Everyone in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We will now move on to board discussion and possible action items. Reports from subcommittee from station 54.
I'll share a reading email, and it was shared. There's a brief update. This is from Chief Hochstein on station 54 on the drainage line. He's reached out to 4 companies to get inspection and repair quotes. All companies are from MRSC, so that allows us to, choose a good one without having to go out to request for bids or proposals or whatever. Once he collects the quotes, he'll share them with you, and then we'll make a decision on how we're gonna go forward with that repair. On the demolition side, he's reached out to 5 companies to get demolition quotes. Again, all companies from MRSC. Once collecting the quotes, he'll also share those with them. It's a little bit of a process of trying to get, the people to respond to, these requests. So.
And did we find out, or do we even know at this point where that water is coming from?
No, it's gonna be an inspection and repair,
Okay.
process.
We'll find out.
Because one of the key things is whether or not it's even on our property
Right,
or not.
okay,
So we don't know where the break is or where the source of this, but Commissioner Webster, we've been up there and there's one that's daylighted. I mean, so
okay,
we got issues.
okay,
We believe there's more than one.
yeah, okay,
So.
thank you.
Mhm.
Reports from the subcommittee on outbuildings at Station 51.
Right, so I have another email on that and some recommendations. On the 51 outbuilding, there's been some conversations that we've had with TCA as directed by the board. To see what that feasibility looks like in the process, et cetera, et cetera. And because of the fact that it is an architect, and Chief Wilson and I talked about this, there are more stipulations when you have an architectural engineering service as to how you go about choosing that firm to do the work. So we believe we need to go out for an RFQ on this, and see who responds and all that. I believe that you could argue that TCA, who designed this building, who knows the site, who knows all the stuff, should be the one that we go with. But if we're going out for an RFQ, then it'll be an equal opportunity process. So they looking at the policies and all that. That's the recommendation. And he sent that to. Did you have any questions or
It's
agree?
just that's up to date, but.
Okay, so that's kind of it too. I don't know, Eric, did you have any questions on that? Okay. All right,
Okay,
so works in progress.
okay, thank you. Update of tax relief for North Shore citizens related to the fire benefit charge.
Sure, this is an item that I started researching into after there was discussion about our establishing our new levy and fire benefit charge. And so I wasn't sure right now. I did some research with Washington State and King County. What I learned is that King County has an existing mechanism for seniors, veterans, people with disability to apply for relief of their real estate taxes. I wasn't sure if that applied to the benefit charge. And so what I've learned is it does apply to the benefit charge, and there's kind of a table of, depending on what your income is, the amount of reduction you'll get. So really, as I stated in my email to the board and others, I don't really think there's any action required on our part. I think there's an adequate mechanism in place right now for people to request relief through King County. So instead of us being in the wheel, I think the only thing that we need to do is, as I detailed in my email, if someone does apply for that, there is some feedback needed from the department back to King County as far as that process. So we just need to make sure we have that.
161. Aid emergency weapons. TAC 1. Aid 163. MSL 161. Battalion 161. 335 Northeast 1 8th Street. Aid emergency weapons. TAC 1. Aid 1.
Yeah, I thought so
Yeah.
too, but
We don't know how to do it, but
Okay, sorry about that,
sorry
everyone.
about that.
we should learn
Um,
that. So we
So we're gonna move on now to the
Lisa?
I'm sorry.
it's
Wait, yeah.
muted, isn't it?
No, she's off mute.
Okay.
Yes, Josh, I'm sorry. I
So
missed
just
that.
piggybacking on Commissioner Adams' comments, I think it would be good for us to direct our secretary to advertise the King County program on our website, right? So when citizens go to our website, they can see the direction to the King County website and the process for applying for that reduction.
Yeah, I think that's an
That's-
amazing idea.
It's a great segue too, because Jennifer Kunkel is I can see her remoting in.
Uh-huh.
After a couple meetings ago, when we first talked about this, I went back to her and said, hey, can we make sure that it's prominent in our website, to, be able to direct it. I'm not sure if she had a chance to do that or not, but, we can certainly reemphasize that. And what you were, and I applaud the diligence especially Eric, that you went and make sure that we were taking care of our citizens and all that. I do have an update to piggyback on this, because
Okay,
tonight, we were supposed to have a public hearing for any fire benefit charge appeals, but there weren't any for the board to weigh in on. I sent you guys an email,
Mhm.
but to your point, and because it's a sensitive in nature, these appeals, that's why I don't have a document for anybody to look at. But if you have any questions, I can answer it. I did put some details in that email. We only had, it was 10 appeals, but 2 of them are for senior discounts, and it's pending King County action. So, and one was already approved. So, I think some people are taking advantage of it. I just don't know how, to Josh's point though, too, of how prominent people or how much people know about this. And so if there's a way to message it better on our website, that's what Jennifer and I, spoke about doing.
I did see that somebody's been going to the senior centers and it's been,
That's an
that
awesome
was
idea.
commented on in their meeting minutes for that.
Well, and potentially we have the open house too. We could talk, maybe we have even a sign or something. If you have any questions about the fire benefit charge and or
Mhm.
discounts or exemptions,
Could we put something on the annual update that goes out to each citizen each year too?
yeah, actually, it is in there, but we can make it more prominent.
No problem. Yeah.
I do have a caption that says you can apply, you can get a sprinkler discount, you can get a senior, go to the King County website. If you have any questions, ask us, kind of thing, but we can make it more prominent. Most people don't really read, it kind of,
yeah,
it's amazing how many people don't really read that letter. But yeah, that's certainly something that we can tweak for next year because we're paying for it to mail to go out anyway. We can put whatever messages that we want in there.
Who takes care of that in your department?
Oh, the fire benefit charge appeals?
No, the card that goes out to the mailer.
I write it for both
Okay.
departments. But I write it and I bring it to you guys for
Oh,
review.
I just,
I don't, yeah,
Okay.
so,
I didn't know if you had somebody else specific that took care of
no, not at this time.
that. Okay.
yeah, I think that's great. Amy, is that something you can do on the website for us? That
On the
would be
North
great.
Shore page.
Perfect.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Forgot.
Mhm.
So, any questions about the fire benefit charge appeals or anything too? This is the circling around. Jen, I will, she's on, but, I'll give some, both to Jennifer Kunkel and Kimberly Parker. Jennifer does the North Shore side and Kimberly does the shoreline side. They both did a fantastic job of promptly addressing, the appeals that we got and working with the fire marshal's office to decide if it was validated, if it wasn't, and what steps we had to take. So it was really good for me.
That's
And
great.
you, because we didn't have anything to
Yeah,
to discuss. So.
that's great. Okay, so Chief Orms, excuse me, is going to do a presentation for us on the new rescue apparatus and TRT staffing.
So, Chief Orms, this is a response to, and actually I was a little delinquent in getting this to you at the last meeting, which is what I was hoping to do. I just forgot. But he's here to discuss, and some of the questions even that we had right before this meeting about what we're doing and why we're doing it, and the benefits and all that. Excuse me. And then when he's done, I'd like to talk to you about the rescue purchase itself, because I have an update there too.
Perfect.
Go ahead, Anders.
So, like Chief Khan just shared, I'm here to kind of give a overview summary of some of the programmatic changes that we've made to our technical rescue responder program.
Hold on a sec.
Yeah, sure.
Do you want?
Yeah, sure. As soon as you're ready. Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions as we go. Again, my expertise is more from the operations side of things, so that's kind of where I'll focus this presentation, and as we get into it, if we have questions that I can't answer, I'll either get back to you or she can.
Or you'll make something up.
I'll make something.
Teasing.
So as we move through the slideshow here, I just want you to take note, I've added some pictures here, not just to break up the text, but these are all technical rescue incidents that have happened within the jurisdiction. One of them is from outside the jurisdiction in the last handful of years, at least since I've been employed here. So I'm happy to answer questions about each of these incidents. So I'll start at a kind of foundational level. I know that we have people who have some expertise in this in the room, so I don't want to insult anybody's intelligence, but I'll just keep it at basic because I can go over them. But what is a technical rescue response? So this is defined in the NFPA. I'll talk a little bit about the NFPA later, but it's just complex search and rescue incidents requiring specialized training, special equipment to complete the mission. So as you can see, it's a broad definition. And I'll talk a little bit about more specifically how it relates to the people.
Can you tell us what NFPA?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Is-
So the NFPA is the National Fire Protection Administration. They write the consensus standard for what we do in the field.
Thank you.
It should be of note that NFPA is not law. It's not RCW, it's not WAC, it's not federal law. However, it is viewed as essentially law.
Okay,
When something, if something goes awry or if somebody's questioning something, they will look at the NFPA standard and see how we conform or adhere to those standards. It's not law, but it is as similar to law as you can get. So
gotcha.
it's good to note that because it's not, it gets that back to the legal, risks that we take on.
And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the slideshow. Thank you. The Washington Administrative Code breaks technical rescue responses into 7 specialties. One of them is mine and tunnel, which we don't deal with here yet. Oh, sorry. But if you can keep clicking the mouse, it'll play the specialties here. So structural collapse, rope rescue, confined space rescues, machinery rescues, including vehicles, water rescue, and trench excavation rescue. So why do we respond to technical rescue incidents?
Can I have you pause?
Yep.
Amy, I'm not sure that this is on.
It is.
Okay,
It would be blinking if it was muted. I don't
okay,
see
it's
the-
not
We can see it.
blinking.
Is that okay?
Perfect, thank you. I just wanted to make sure.
Can you open this whole slide? Sorry, thank you. So the Shoreline Fire Department is what's known as an all hazards fire department. All hazards fire department comes from Homeland Security Presidential Directive 8. After 9/11, there was a big push to create a national framework so that fire departments would be capable of responding to all kinds of emergencies. In particular, at the time, terrorism was high on our list, and also natural disasters. And the national preparedness architecture includes all hazards response at the prevention, protection, response, and recovery level. Technical rescue response is a highly regulated activity. The Washington Administrative Code has more rules about technical rescue responses than they do about firefighting. And as the chief was mentioning a bit ago, the NFPA, the consensus standard, is generally viewed or is generally used is viewed as law, right? It has the kind of the doesn't have the power of law, but it is the consensus standard that people will look to if they're scrutinizing what we do. But for technical rescue in particular, our Washington Administrative Code references the NFPAs on technical rescue, both 1670 and 1006, essentially, effectively making them law. Thank you. We also have some contractual obligations that kind of regulate what we do for technical rescue. The oldest and primary is the Zone 1 Technical Rescue Interlocal Agreement. This is an interlocal agreement to provide technical rescue responses across the jurisdictions in Zone 1.
And we also have a sound transit readiness agreement, which we recently signed, which provided financial resources to allow us to respond to light rail emergencies on the guideway.
Just in case anyone listening doesn't know what zone one is, what zones or jurisdictions is that?
So zone one essentially is not Seattle, King County, north of I-90. That's probably the easy. There is some that goes south of I-90, but like Bellevue, goes a little bit further south of I-90. Bellevue's in it. So going across, just to name them. So Shoreline, Bothell, Kirkland, Redmond, Bellevue, East Side Fire, and then you've got some smaller ones out, Snoqualmie, Fall City, Duval, Snoqualmie Pass, but those are the big ones.
So basically. North King County.
Northeast King County, because Seattle, but I-90 is kind of that it's close to that line.
Another question I have, it has some funding, is King County supplying that funding for that?
So the King County interlocal agreement doesn't have a funding mechanism. It's only the sound transit agreement.
The ILA is with the other, with our other fire departments because technical rescue is a high risk, low frequency, event, and which is one of the reasons why it's probably regulated so heavily. For example, we don't have a lot of standards of how we provide EMS. Why? Because we provide EMS all the time. A fire is a little bit, higher risk and lower frequency, so we have more. But the further out you get with those high risk, low frequency events, the more regulated you are and the more, liability there could potentially be, potentially. The ILA that we have with zone one is to make sure that we're trying to, as a region, respond on these types of incidents, because if you have one of these incidents, it's labor intensive, and we don't, I should say none of the fire departments, if we were to take all of our people and concentrate them and have minimum staffing levels, it becomes cost prohibitive. We don't have enough on our own, so we rely on mutual aid, automatic aid to be able to respond on these. And it's important that we have interoperability so that when we do go on these calls, that we are working off the same sheet of music, the same, protocols and stuff. Sorry.
No, that's okay. And as Chief mentioned, these are low frequency, high risk, highly scrutinized events when they occur. So we can't ignore that as a risk management tool, making sure we are doing our due diligence to follow the laws and work within the regulations, keeps us protected to a degree.
Oh, I took the slide. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Okay, so what are the implications of all of these regulations and contracts on technical rescue training? Most kind of notably is the training requirements. These are significant. So an initial training class for somebody who's learning how to use ropes, for example, might take 40 hours. And then we have an annual competency cycle, which requires us to keep these folks refreshed. With all of our technical rescue disciplines, it's about 48 hours of training per year that each of these folks get. And then that's outside of all of the training that they do at the crew level. So I'm sure you've all been in the station recently and seen people hanging off the tower and doing different drills here. So these are emergencies that take hours and hours of training to be proficient to respond to. So the implications of these regulations and contracts on technical rescue staffing and response, really here we focus on the Zone 1 interlocal agreement. So the Zone 1 Technical Rescue Committee is tasked with making kind of global decisions about technical rescue operations in the zone, as we mentioned. And one of those decisions that they made was to kind of determine what an appropriate level of response was for a technical rescue emergency. What they determined is that being able to assemble 9 technicians, so 9 people trained to this level from 3 vehicles was kind of the right number for these responses. So our implied Zone 1 obligation is to put 3 technicians available to respond regionally if one of these events were to happen with our neighbors, as they would obviously return the favor.
Question. Who are the other partners that provide a rescue?
Right now, the rescues in our zone are Rescue 83 out on the plateau and Rescue 3 in Crossroads in Bellevue.
So you east side in Bellevue or the other.
Rescue 16, and then
I'm sorry, and Rescue 16 in Redmond,
and ladder 127 is rescue equipment.
and they have Rescue.
And staff.
What about Seattle?
Seattle has Rescue 1 down in Soto.
Seattle has the only heavy rescue in the area. And they're the only ones correct me if I'm wrong, they're the only ones with dedicated staffing, to that rescue. So at any time they have minimum staffing levels and required, response.
Yeah, they're co-located with a ladder truck, but they take it sparingly.
In the past, like with Kirkland's ladder and Shoreline's ladder for that matter, we've tried to do as good a job as we can with putting the equipment on there and with technicians so that we can respond to these things. But it's becoming more and more not labor, but equipment intensive, and it exceeds the capacity on the ladders if we're going to keep the ladder as a ladder truck, which is one of the reasons why we're looking at this rescue purchase, is just getting the equipment and from a weight standpoint and a space standpoint of making sure that we're getting this stuff there.
Right, and as the chief mentions, these regulations, contracts have had some implications to our equipment and vehicles. Equipment has evolved. Technology is making equipment more capable, but that comes at a weight penalty. Rescue 51 and Ladder 61 have essentially run out of room and payload to carry this equipment. So the heavy rescue really is the best and only option for the amount of stuff that we have to carry. The total gross vehicle weight of a heavy rescue is 70,000 pounds. Rescue 151 is 42,000 pounds.
Oh.
If you were to purchase a medium duty rescue today, you'd be purchasing one that's in the neighborhood of 26,000 to 35,000 gross vehicle weight. So the vehicles are the payload requirements have just increased over time. So the program changes that we've made, we've tried to be slow, incremental, and small about these things. So the very first notable change has been that Rescue 51 has become the Shoreline Fire Department's primary technical rescue response unit. That, like the chief mentioned earlier, that doesn't mean we've staffed Rescue 51. Rescue 51 is also staffing an engine, and there's an aid car here too, that rescue is just available for them to respond to when that vehicle is needed.
Is the staffing here technical rescue trained, all 3 personnel?
Yeah, so we have asked the battalion chiefs, we're not guaranteeing the staffing, but we're asking the battalion chiefs to have 1 company officer, 1 driver, and 1 firefighter here who are technical rescue technicians, and then when possible to staff it with all 5. We had a response, we got called to Sammamish last week for a trench rescue, and that day we had 5 technicians on duty, so they all jumped on the rescue and went to Sammamish to help with their rescue there. So,
And earlier today even.
yeah, and I'll show you here a picture.
Before we get to that
Yep.
slide, one of the things, because actually one of our captains is here too, one of the things that it's a kind of a fundamental change for Shoreline is that typically all of our captains have been assigned to the truck, the ladder truck. And because of their specialties and stuff, 2 of them have been reassigned here and bringing that specialty, the passion and the technical expertise to be able to staff this route.
What that means is that Ladder 161 will no longer be dedicated or designated as a technical response unit. It is equipped to support Rescue 51. We will have some technicians and some equipment on there. And the idea is that their response, they respond together to some of these larger incidents. But really the contract for services allowed us to kind of take 2 independently operating technical rescue programs and consolidate them into a more centralized focused program where we could provide better service. Like I mentioned earlier, the battalion chiefs have made their shift assignments. We are doing our best to always have a company officer, a driver, and a firefighter here that are technical rescue trained technicians as staffing allows. And then, as you know, in October of last year, we established the apparatus committee to look at options for replacing Rescue 151, and ultimately they made the determination that payload required us to go to a heavier rescue. So we've talked a lot about rescues, but obviously this vehicle and these crews are not just doing this work. right? They are firefighter EMTs responding to all hazards. As mentioned before, they've just got a specialized level of training. And the vehicle is just a bigger toolbox for them to take to some of these bigger calls. We anticipate that as our capabilities increase, Rescue 151 will be used more for calls, and they are on our run card to respond to most major jurisdictions most major emergencies within the jurisdiction, and then also regionally. I've included a picture here on the bottom right-hand corner. That was this morning. The crews had a medical emergency with a bariatric patient. It was a very sick person who needed to be removed from the house and taken to the hospital. It couldn't go out the front door. Our technicians with the rescue and as part of a broader response were able to remove this person safely and get him into the medic unit so that they could go.
Just for those who don't know, sure.
Sorry, a very large person. So this is a call that I think we could have muddled our way through a few years ago, but that went exceptionally well today because of the kind of level of training and dedication that these folks have put into these types of emergencies. That's all I have.
Can you refresh my memory? Isn't our current rescue over 20 years old?
It's, it was due to be replaced 3 years ago, extended, it's coming up on 20 years, I believe,
Okay.
right now. Just keep in mind, it's gonna be 3 years to get
Mhm.
the next apparatus. So, and I'll talk about that here in a second. One thing I want to mention, because I want, and I think Commissioner Webster and I have a better understanding, but just in case there's any questions about there, we've reassigned people here that has not increased our minimum staffing level here, has not increased the cost of doing business. We've just concentrated the talent to here so that we can better staff that apparatus. So I just want to be clear on that.
And this morning's, was that in Shoreline, Kenmore, or Lake Forest Park?
In Kenmore.
Kenmore, okay.
Oh. Any questions on what the program is doing and what we're looking at as our levels of service and trying to improve and so forth? Okay. We just got the numbers today on the rescue. It went up a little bit. I'll give you the exact numbers. Out the door with taxes and some discounts, and one of the questions that we have tonight is whether or not we want it. I know it's a big ticket, but if we wanted to pay for the whole thing, I'm not saying that we should, because I know we already talked about that, but right now, out the door with taxes, delivery, some discounts, it's 1.89 million. If we wanted to do a full pay, excuse me, it would be a goal of about $150,000 to $180,000 worth of discounts if we were to prepay for the whole thing. Again, just as a reminder, we do not have it budgeted for the whole thing this year. We took a big portion of it for this year, and we're going to meter out next year and the year after for the remainder, of what's owed. So we're looking at in the neighborhood of about $450,000 next year and $450,000 the year after to meet this obligation. So I have drawings if you want to see them. It's a heavy rescue. People ask, oh, what's a heavy rescue? What's a medium rescue? This is a bigger rig. It'll have a walk-in capability so people can change into whether it's getting into coveralls or getting into a wetsuit or something like that. It'll have, all the capabilities and store the equipment and so forth. And the important part is it won't be overweight immediately. There will be space for it, for future changes if they're coming down the pipe. You asked about, the funding and, how we're doing with the ILA, with the rest of Zone 1. One of the pieces that we are obligated to is to be ready to go on the guideway for the light rail. They're already running, but once they have paying customers, we have to be qualified to be able to respond to any emergency there. And they've paid for training and for equipment that will be duplicated both on the rescue and to some degree on the truck as much as we can. So that if one rig is out of service, at least we have another one that can be responding.
And that funding, is that an ongoing funding or a one-time shot? Can some of that funding go towards this rescue? Will it help with some of that animosity about it?
It's very defined, the training and the equipment piece under contract. However, so we've had multiple contracts and we still need to develop the next contract with Sound Transit. We had a pre-construction, fire marshal services contract. We've had the training contract, and then we're gonna develop the operational contract. So the ongoing operational contract with Sound Transit will certainly, in my opinion, will certainly include some money for future equipment replacement, training, et cetera. And I would like money to be set aside for a future, rescue replacement or some, incrementally, so that it's not all on our taxpayers to, 15, 20 years from now, when we're looking beyond my career, hopefully, when we're looking at the next replacement, that there will be seed money that'll be going in on an annual basis, even outside of our normal capital apparatus replacement program, from Sound Transit to help purchase, things like this in the future.
It's a big ticket for Sound Transit.
Yeah, it is. And it's something that, that they need, but that's why they also help support with the training and the equipment. So questions. So if there isn't.
No questions. I'm excited for, this to come to fruition and to see the two organizations combining their resources to provide a much more robust rescue program. I have a technical rescue background in my own organization, and it's just great to see, knowing that, the adjacent organization has a program like this.
Commissioner Admin, did you have any other comments or questions?
Is there action required right now on the purchase, or we are kind of moving forward with a certain plan? Would there be action if we're going to change that plan, or where do we stand with regard to that?
The only action, because we've already got approval for it, the only action would be if you want to consider paying for the whole thing up front. That would be the only decision that you guys need to make tonight. That would be an additional let's say, well, there'd be discounts, so it's more like probably $700,000 to $800,000 more than what is budgeted now, which we don't have unless we tap into reserves. That it was something that we had considered because the price came down quite a bit from where we were originally. I'm not a big fan of actually, tapping into our reserves to do this at this time. So I'm not really recommending that, but it was something that we had discussed. So I felt compelled to at least have that on the table.
Commissioner Brewster, did you have any questions or comments?
No, I just think that she's right. I think that we keep it the way it is, the funding the way we have it. And then, can we have those blueprints, or do we have a
I can-
PDF copy and get it online?
I have it digitally. I can send it to you digitally if you'd
Can we
like.
put it online, put it on our site?
Yeah.
Because people are interested in that, so.
So, Chief Hochstein was ready to sign it today. I told him to wait because it came in today. And because just in case there was a change to do the whole thing tonight, but looking at I just not going to recommend that. So unless you want to overrule me or whatever, we will make the purchase tomorrow. I can, and we can send these out and put it online.
Okay, great, appreciate it.
Chief Orms, did you have any other comments now that you've heard us talking a bit?
Can you spell your last name for me?
ORANS.
Yeah, so, okay, all right, I just want to make sure. All right, thank you, Chief.
Just to make it confusing, we have Anders, we have Andres, we have, it's Hanson. So, yeah.
Bigger mustache.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
So, thank you, Chief. We're gonna go on to planning for 2024 commissioner training. So Amy's provided us with a list, so I think that some of these are things we should definitely do. Whether we do it as a team or, a couple people here and there. So there is a Robert's rules of order training, April 13th. I think I know that we had one 2 years ago. But I think if someone was interested, that's an online class through King County Fire Commissioners. Is there anyone interested in that?
Is there anyone on the board now that has not had it?
I do not, so I
Okay,
think we've all had it. I didn't know if anyone wanted a refresher.
Would be opposed to a refresher, but I think if we did that, it'd be good for us to all do it together, like we did last time.
Yeah.
It was only a couple of hours and.
And we can sure jump in on King Counties. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what the price was. Amy, do you remember? I should know
I
this.
think it was $100.
Per person, yeah.
I think we do a pretty good job on Robert's rules right now, so I'll vote on everything.
Right.
Yeah,
I think so too, because it's still pretty fresh.
yeah,
We took it, so I think we could spend our time better on the public records. The next one you have, there's.
Okay.
Matt keeps us in line too.
Well, I see that cringe every once in a while. Great chart.
Mr. Paxton, we're talking about you.
I do keep you guys in line.
You do. Okay, so there's a Washington Fire Commissioners Association Spring Seminar. And that's like open public records, public meeting training. I think that would be valuable. Yeah, that's March 23rd. It's at Tulalip.
I looked at that one. I'm not available on that date, but I don't know, is there any, I think there's some online training available. I don't know if Matt Paxton knows about that, or there's some other place that we could get that training. I think it's a good idea that everybody stays up to speed and refreshed on that topic.
Yeah.
But I can't make that particular date.
I'm looking, I'm out of town that day.
It's like it's a requirement every 4 years, and we had it in-house last time.
Yeah, wasn't it 2 years ago or?
It was our first year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't
3 years.
3 years.
all that.
I don't think you've had it.
Yeah, I don't, I'd have to look back, but I'm not sure. I am available on the 23rd. And we can ask Tyler as well, because I'm gonna assume Commissioner Byers, excuse me, because I'm assuming he hasn't had this training either. Amy, do you mind adding that? If you can send Commissioner Byers, this information and see if he'd like to do that. And then if you could sign me up for that, that would be great. So then, sorry.
That's right, Commissioner. Given the frequency would be good, I think, for all of us, if. Balance of us that don't get it this year. Need to go through next year. Let's do it every 4 years.
So put it on the calendar for like January of next year to set that up. Good idea.
So then we've got Washington State Fire Commissioner Spring Series in Lake Chelan. And that is a several-day event. I went last year and found it, very valuable. So I think that if there are commissioners that want to attend that would be valuable training.
Is the agenda out for it? I would just maybe with that link, that is depend on what it's about.
I don't see, I'm online. I don't see the agenda published.
And this was June 1st through the what, Amy?
I think it's just a 1 day, it's Saturday, June 1st. But then there's a note here that usually Nicholson and Associates will do something the day prior.
Right, that
I
evening
haven't seen
beforehand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's typically one of the legal firms is offering some stuff on that Friday. I thought there was something Sunday morning.
I did too. I thought there was something Sunday morning.
Breakfast.
Doesn't stretch into Monday, correct?
No, no. I want to say there was morning and then we were all free.
Yeah.
Noonish, heavy on the ish.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that.
And I know that Campbell's Resort is already booked, so we would have to do, Beatrice told me, there's a
There's one.
hotel across the street. But yeah,
Yeah, there's one right across the street.
yeah, that we,
June 1st is also the date that the North Shore Fire Open House Pancake Breakfast.
So it's-
oh,
That just
okay.
goes out the window there for us.
Okay.
Gonna mention that that's a conflict.
Okay. But I think if Commissioner Pratt wants to go, that would be a, for sure.
Okay.
So in fact, on that vein, I was, I got a couple of you to respond, but I need to know if June 1st is gonna be a go. I mean, it's kind of a go right now. So let me know if you guys aren't going to make it.
It's good.
So I know
That's.
Okay.
And
And I mean,
you're
I'm in, yeah.
good. Are you gonna go Chelan?
well, if we have the funds, yeah, I would,
Oh, you
I
guys
would
have
like
it?
to, but,
We budgeted for seminars and training for you guys,
okay.
so.
But Commissioner Edmund, are you interested in
Be here
doing
to flip
Chelan?
pancakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aren't you-
Okay, okay.
Aren't you gonna be, no, Tyler, actually, he already responded that he's gonna be coming off shift and will be a little late getting up here from Lacey.
Okay,
It's such a neat function. I mean, it just,
So,
Yeah, it's a fun one to meet public.
everybody
totally.
shows up. It's great.
and then, we have the annual conference in Spokane, which is a several day conference, which I also found it to be, super informational, especially, I think we need those refreshers fairly often. But that's another one I would recommend if anyone was interested in going to that, and that's in October.
Do you get the conference postings?
I do not. Amy, do you get the conference postings? Okay. I think, I believe we are not
Members?
Yeah.
correct.
That
Yeah.
might be why you're not getting. it.
Yeah.
Reach out to Kim, to Commissioner Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure that she just maybe forwards it along to you.
Yeah, she's very good about
you know.
letting me know. Okay, so there's a Spokane one. Is anyone interested in doing that one?
Depends on what the topics are.
Okay, and I don't know that they're out yet, but
Some of those can be kind of.
yeah.
Just my.
Mm-hmm. And then there's a leadership conference in Portland. Oh, it's going on right now, though.
Yeah.
I'm going from here to Portland.
To Portland, okay,
So Northwest Leadership.
okay. And then there's also a NAFO conference in Las Vegas.
NAFO is National Association of Emergency Fire
Mm-hmm.
Organization.
So I mean, I thought that was good as well, but I think, if anyone else wants to go, I think someone else should be the priority.
Did you go to that one?
I did, yeah. Just a lot of information, a lot of different information and a lot of different subjects are covered, which, I just enjoy that information gathering piece. And I would go, but I also think if someone else wants to go, they need to do that.
Don't know where I'll be in September.
Okay,
I may,
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested, but, it's hard to commit at this point to.
Yeah.
what's going on in September.
right,
Exactly, yes.
right.
Yeah.
So maybe what we need to do, is see if there's a way, if there's a cancellation fee. Because I almost feel like you should have your name in there and then we can cancel if we need to, or switch it to a different commissioner, but. I feel like we need to tentatively book it.
I think it'd be good if two of us wins. I don't know if anyone else is interested or Commissioner Byron, maybe, but.
Yeah, and I think, Amy, if you can just ask Commissioner Byers if he's interested in any of these. And then, okay, so are we okay with this as we move forward? We can always make adjustments and, Amy, maybe you can, like put notes as to who's going to which one.
Yeah, I was just gonna read that back.
Perfect.
So for Robert's rules, 0, no one.
Okay,
Anne McFarlane is the same trainer that we had, so if we want to schedule just with her and our board, maybe in a year, we can do that.
Right.
For the spring, for the seminar, or sorry, yeah, the seminar, March 23rd at Tulalip, I have Commissioner Woolhams and maybe Commissioner Byers. I'll ask him. And then this one will keep on the radar for next year and having 2 additional commissioners go to. For Lake Chelan, I have Commissioner Woolham and maybe Commissioner Pratt. For Spokane, I didn't have anyone. So is that a no, 0?
You can put me as a tentative, but depending on.
Just get it back.
Okay. And I'll just keep an eye on the websites to see if when they publish. Actually, I'll just reach out to the coordinator and see if there's a draft agenda.
Sure.
and then you can put me down for that one as well, Amy, unless Commissioner Byers wants to go, then I would.
Okay,
September,
and then that's the October in Spokane, and then 0 people for Portland except Chief Cowan will be there. And then for the NAFO conference in Las Vegas, a question mark for Commissioner Pratt.
I would go again unless
Yeah.
Commissioner Byers wants to go.
I'll look at going to that, to Vegas. I'm gonna be down in Palm Springs. That's just a 4-hour drive, so
Oh.
I might do that.
So that would be Commissioner Webster.
Yeah.
So if there are 3 commissioners, we may need to just publish something, and I'll check with legal counsel Matt Paxton about if there are 3 of you there, some sort of notification to the public that it's a training and a conference, and that no district.
Don't make any decisions.
no-
Business
no
will be
district
conducted, yeah.
Activities will be discussed. I'll get the right, if that's the case. So
Okay.
for Las Vegas, there's maybe Commissioner Webster, Commissioner Pratt, and maybe Commissioner Woolham and Byers. Okay,
Since we're talking about things, I just want to throw out for our the leadership retreat at the Clearwater Casino. And I always extend an invitation to the chair of the board, whether it's both Shoreline and North Shore. So if you want to attend, great, or if you can't and somebody else wants to attend in your place, just want to put it on your radar.
And were those dates? Do you have those?
Of
I'm
course you got
sorry.
that. September, or is it early October? In my calendar.
Okay,
Might not put in my calendar yet. Sorry about that.
that's okay.
Is it reasonable question?
Okay, well, we'll put it off there. If it's something I can go to, I would enjoy going again, but I think also I'm willing to, if somebody else wants to go, I would definitely step back and, let somebody else go if they wanted to.
It's usually a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and that's the. So no. Not gonna leave, so it's leisure retreat, September 17th through 19th.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, so moving on, we're gonna go to the discussion of the district's strategic options for August 24 special election.
Thank you. So you know, we talked about this at last week in our special meeting. We're at I believe this is a big decision, but we're at a fork in the road of how we want to go forward. This is not something that has just popped up over the last few years. This is something that's been known for over a decade that it was coming. Other commissioners have brought it up in previous and admin staff. It just hasn't been, addressed as far as the lid. Just as a refresher, we can bring up if there's any questions or if you want to see the PowerPoint, we have it available. It's also online. We are capped at 1% unless costs are not going up by more than 1%. We have incrementally increased the fire benefit charge to compensate for the revenues needed because we've been up against the cap on the fire levy on the tax side. That has been that way for almost 20 years. It's for over those decades, the more and more of the percentages happen with the fire benefit. Unless costs are not going up by 1% because that's what's allowed, then that's the way it's been. And I think Commissioner Admin was talking about it at the last meeting. Like most departments have to do lid lifts. If they don't have the fire benefit charge, they have to do lid lifts actually fairly often. But if you do have the fire benefit charge, you have a diversified revenue stream. It gives you more flexibility and more time, for these resets to, and how they occur. So I suppose you could argue it's a cost thing, but only if you can keep costs below 1%, which is not realistic. Costs go up by more than 1%, every year. So that's why we're at this position. From a tax standpoint, I'm not looking. This is if we pursue a regional fire authority, because the feedback I got from the last meeting is that probably not looking at a merger. So we're either looking at this lid lift option or an RFA, regional fire authority. It is not to increase taxes. Both departments are financially solvent except for this cap thing that we're facing in North Shore. It's not about raising taxes, and in fact, depending on the assumptions and reserves and all that, it might mean no tax increase at all for Lake Forest Park and Kenmore. It would be a tax decrease, overall tax decrease for Shoreline. But it's not a subsidization of Shoreline either. Actually, it's the other way around. Where you've got better growth, you have those entities, those cities, those areas that are contributing more proportionally, on a year-to-year basis, as far as revenues. So, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. It's just we have certain communities that have very little or no growth, and we have other communities that have higher growth. And as you have higher growth, you have higher, revenues that are being generated, and so that helps others get pushed down. Actually, so it's actually opposite. So. Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. Now, there could be changes in the levels of service that are needing to be provided. But we've talked about that, and actually all three cities, whether we do a station 54, whether we look at increasing aid 157 to a 24-hour car, whether we build a new station in the Shoreline. These are all things that are potentially options out there. But once you go to that RFA, you get the full efficiencies. You get the equalization of all the taxes and all that, and it's a better way to go, in my opinion, for government. But it's a big deal, and it's a change from what we're doing now. I didn't receive any feedback from. Well, I got a couple of pieces of feedback from you guys. No substantial questions, so I'd like to offer it up for any questions. I think both Commissioner Webster, and it's been mentioned before too, that we need to actively involve both Lake Forest Park and Kenmore and Shoreline's councils in this if we're going to move forward. I've already had some conversations with Kenmore's council, but we would have to actively pursue that. We do have an aggressive compressed timeline if we're going to get it done. It's entirely doable, so I'll vote for Brian Snur. And so what I'm looking for tonight is a direction. It's not a decision that it's going to go to the voters tonight. It's just a direction. It's a decision that we're going to pursue a lid lift or pursue an RFA. And if we pursue the lid lift, then that's fairly normal. It's, we'll do the ballot language and all that. We will still have some marketing that we will need to do. And as Dave Marin was talking about, we need to make sure that everybody understands what's going on, our taxpayers and all that. If we're pursuing an RFA, we will, over the next couple of months, will form a committee that'll have, hopefully, if they're interested, which I think they probably will be, the cities would have a seat on that committee to develop the language and the documents and all that to come back to the boards for both North Shore and Shoreline Board to approve to go to a vote. It needs to go to a vote in August because it needs to be incorporated before October 1st to have funding available in 2025. So, so what I'm looking for tonight is some direction. Are we going to look at getting the articles together for an RFA? Or are we going to look at going at it after the?
Commissioner Pratt?
I am strongly in favor of moving in the direction of an RFA. However, I think that doing it in 2024, I'm not too impressed. I would really like to see the RFA of Shoreline, North Shore, and Bothell. But I don't think we have the time in the next 2 months to do it. We could build the structure and make it happen, but would we have the support of our citizens? Would they feel betrayed by the decision that we're making, or at least blindsided by the decision that we're making? I don't feel comfortable with it.
Okay.
But I am on board and I want that to happen. If that makes sense, right? And so I think in the short term, our best option is to pursue the lid lift, and long-term option is to pursue the RFA.
There are, let me talk.
Hang on, I'll give everybody a chance to talk, so.
Let me talk a little bit about some, because I forgot to mention some of the pros and cons. Doing it this year is aggressive for sure. But it would just be the two departments, North Shore and Shoreline, doing it. And it'll take a supermajority vote to pass it, because it is basically resetting and reauthorizing this new entity. So it's going to take a supermajority because the fire benefit charge will trigger that mechanism will trigger a supermajority. However, once it's set up, anybody else that wants to come on would be a simple majority. So that makes it a far easier, to come on. And there's a little bit more complexity. In a perfect world, it might be nice to wait till next year. There are some downsides to it. It'd be 3 entities potentially if Bothell was on board. We don't know.
I just do Bothell out there as like a potential, but I think, North Shore and Shoreline for sure. And then if Bothell is involved, which it sounds like there increasingly are.
Yeah, I had a meeting today actually with them. And they are actually, even though the RFP, that language is for admin services, it seems like they're very much in tune of like what the next steps are, going to be. And so one problem that we have next year, potentially, and I need to, and maybe Matt knows this off the top, is that I'm pretty sure that we have to validate this vote next year. And that means we have to have, we're going to be following probably a pretty crazy November. And a turnout will probably be pretty high for voters, which means that we have to have 40% of the turnout next year. Typically, following a general election, we struggle at times to get validation. So even if we had a yes vote, if we don't validate, it doesn't pass. So next year might be a little bit problematic in that sense. The other piece of this is, we need, if we do the lid lift now, we're following with another vote, another ballot measure, next year, which could be problematic. I don't think it's super problematic, but you're following one after the other. If we don't do the RFA, we also need to authorize the fire benefit charge next year because it runs out. So that would be another vote, potentially that we need to look at. And, if Bothell does look at admin services and we are successful, we have 3 different governing entities that I'm going to have to, I'm just being selfish now. That I'm going to have to deal with 3 different governing entities, policies, budgets, all of those things. I don't want to do that for very long. Yeah. So, and if we have to do if let's say next year we're just still looking at the 2 of us, And then we do it, and then so we have to wait till the following year to do that's a, it's a bit of time for me, you know, I'm just being selfish, so.
Commissioner Edmund?
So I think when we last talked about this, you're gonna do some research on like, 'cause I was just thinking in terms of process, you know, to address the questions that Commissioner Pratt had, like, he's talking about how he thinks it's an aggressive time frame. But then obviously there's pros and cons of this year versus the following year, so this year, the pros would be, it's simpler, 2 entities is all it is for sure. It doesn't, we don't have the validation issue of coming after a dramatic general election. You know, the con is it's a rapid time frame, but I think if we knew what the exact steps were, like if we laid out like the work plan that would make it feasible to happen this year, and then we could decide, is that feasible or not? So if you had a list of steps of, you know.
I have a draft from Brian, I got it today.
Okay, so I think if we had that list of steps and we could review and discuss that list of steps, then we could go, yeah, that's feasible, or no, that doesn't look feasible. Yeah, that would really help.
I asked Brian if I was nuts thinking that we could get it done in 2 months, and his quote was, it's aggressive but entirely doable. Now, it's entirely doable only, and Commissioner Webster and I talked about this, it's entirely doable only because we've done all of the hard work, except for like governance and some of the, you know, which is still a big deal.
It's a big deal.
You know, that we've done all those other things. You know, we already have same CBA, the same, all the personnel, and, you know, with same representation, all of that's been done. You know, and that's usually the reason why things get bogged down and delayed, because you have to negotiate CBAs or salaries or whatever it is. You know, so that those are big positives. If we are moving, if, again, I don't know if we're looking at a 2-way or 3-way in the future. If we were to do a 3-way and it was to include Bothell, that would be back to what Commissioner Webster and I have talked about. That would be a more long delayed process, because we would have to negotiate all those things that we've already negotiated. If we just define the RFA now, the way we want to do it, it'd be, you want to come in, you come in, and this is it. You know, and then they would vote to do that. But there'd still be some negotiations about, you know, having big contracts and all that. But it would be a lot simpler to bring a third one on to one that's existing. Again, it's a big if. We don't know if Bothell's going to choose, you know, Shoreline, because there's going to be at least one, or maybe 2 other proposals. We don't know what their timeline is. They are looking at the next steps. The stuff that they're looking at with this RFP is not a long-term solution. It is an immediate, acute, short-term solution. What it looks like and how long, that's yet to be determined. But I think we'd be remiss if we weren't looking to the future. You know, we'd be very short-sighted if we weren't looking at what those options look like and how it either dovetails into us or it doesn't. And it may not. I mean, you know, there's a lot of ifs and there's a lot of balls, and we have a very short, it's a compressed timeline. It absolutely is. And that's why I asked Brian for that I said, hey, give me a boilerplate, you know, give me an understanding of, you know, these things, you know, and he even highlights some of the things that are, you know, more controversial.
But, and I'd suggest even taking it more than, you know, just like, what is the language, you know, like boilerplate sounds like, what's the language for the, you know, the agreement and so on, but I would break it out into like the steps of.
He did, he's got the steps.
Of like, you have to meet with this group, you have to meet with, you have to meet.
I don't think
with
he's got
City
that
Council, you have to meet with Lake Forest Park City Council, yeah, you know, et cetera. I mean, I think we should just, if we're gonna make a plan, really make the plan as tangible as possible, as, you know, as accurate as possible about the steps so we could see, can we do it?
And
Commissioner Webster?
how do we get you know, there's a cost impact. You could have an RFA too, but the chances are we break even, but sounds like it'll be another cost increase to our citizens. And so we need to have that study done. How does the RFA, you know, affect our citizens tax wise?
If we're moving forward, I will give you that. I just didn't want to spend
Oh, I can
hours doing
understand
that
that.
unless we're moving forward. I will be able to provide you with what assumptions I'm making and what the cost is, apples to apples in today's dollars. I can't tell you because I don't know what CPI is going to be next year. But I can look at what it means today, and my very rough estimate was it's either no increase for Lake Forest Park or maybe a couple of cents, depending on the assumptions that we make. You know, and all I did was I basically took the budget.
Right.
And I took the AV and I took, I took away the payment from currently from North Shore. I took it out, made some assumptions. I said, okay, what's it gonna take? And that's what it was. I would definitely provide, because that's super important. I would definitely provide a more in-depth analysis. I just didn't want to spend the time unless we're going down this path.
I kind of concur with Commissioner Pratt, though, that it's such a compressed time, and I don't think that we can get our citizens on behind it without causing some concerns. I think RFA is the way to go, but not till we can get it, done correctly. I just don't think we have the time in this timeline that you're presenting that's going to make it work, that our citizens will be, I just talking to our city council, they're aware of it, put it that way. So I will go along with Josh on going on the going for the levy lift and then, status quo the way it is, and then get going on the RFA for next year. That's my feelings.
So my opinion is we need to move forward with the RFA now. For all the reasons we've sort of been talking about, as long as we can communicate with our citizens extremely well. I think putting it off is not as beneficial. I get what you're saying about timelines and taking our time to do it and communicating with the citizens, but I'm also thinking after the general election and we're gonna do a lid lift, then we're gonna do a fire benefit charge. And to me, I'm also concerned about voter fatigue. I think generally speaking, most people don't understand what all the different pieces are. And so I think the fire department's asking for money. Okay, fire department's asking for money. Okay, fire department's asking for money. So that's my concern, is that we're going back, however many times we need to do this. And then we have to go back and ask about the RFA. Just my personal opinion. And then speaking with Commissioner Byers, he's definitely leaning towards the RFA, but he has not been able to be part of tonight's discussion or the previous discussion. So that was his leaning without, with listening to the AV captures, but not any in-depth conversations about it.
One thing I would add is just to make sure that we're all clear on this. We have 2 months to get the language together, the documents, we have another 3 months beyond that for public engagement and marketing before the vote. It's not in 2 months we're making a vote. It's 2 months. The work we have to do with the documents and the plan and the steps and all that, that's 2 months.
Gotcha.
We have 5 months from now before it's in front of the voters. So we could start the engagement even now, but we wouldn't have much detail, but
Right.
we have the compression that we have, and I certainly hear you, is we have 2 months to get the documents together. And then after that, if we were to do this, my focus would be get the documents together and then spend that, some work now, but you really hit the public engagement side in that following 3 months, once we have all the details and all that. But again, I will share with you, part of me is like, this is a lot of work right now that I would need to do. And so part of me I would like to push it to next year. But I think the timing is much, much better now. And so that's why but I appreciate that you guys are all open to the RFA conversation. It's been something that we've talked about off and on, either merger or RFAs, well, for 11 years since I've been here, but even for decades before, so you know, I'm excited about that piece, whether it happens now or next year. It's up to the board.
Go ahead, Commissioner Admin.
I just suggested maybe you share the information that you got, just, you know, from SNUR.
I can send it out right now, but
And then the commissioners, you know, that are concerned with the time compression can decide that that still doesn't change anything, or maybe they see that and maybe it does.
we need to make a decision. So, yeah, how about this? I'll throw out an idea. I can send it out tonight. I can send it, I've got it, I can send it out here from my phone probably even. You know, for you guys to start considering. I need to be able to go back to the shoreline board next Thursday. And get their buy-off on this too. Cause it's gotta have both board approval to form the committee, to develop the documents, to take back to the individual boards to approve, to go to the voters. That's the process. Would you guys be open to a special meeting next week? To have further discussion about this and make a decision?
Well, and I'll just also throw one more thing out there, which is that both Lisa and I have what's considered a limited interest. So in other words, we will not be able to vote as a tiebreaker, a decision-making vote on this issue. So if the unanimous, if the other members of the board all vote in support of an RFA proposal, we can join that vote, but we cannot be deciding vote on that. So it would need to have full support of Commissioners Pratt and Webster Fires. But I mean, I don't object to a special meeting.
I don't either, yeah.
Would you guys be open to that? Maybe
Tuesday,
next Thursday, give you almost a week, well, over a week.
you want to do it on Thursday, the same time as your meeting next
Well, we
week?
do it before my meeting on Thursday, or I'm out of town. I'm going to this conference, and then I'm helping out another fire department for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I could either remote in the evening, or in person next Thursday.
It'd have to be, I have a playoff game with my basketball team at 7, but we could. 5
On
o'clock.
Thursday,
Yeah, at 5 o'clock, I can
So before 5.
maybe at 5 at the latest for the meeting.
I'm available
4
on
o'clock?
Thursday.
3:30.
4 would work better for me. Did anybody, can we work that?
I'm okay with that, but what about,
I'm gonna be out of town, but I could probably zoom in.
Can I ask a favor that it's at 61? Because I'm gonna have to be at 61 at 5 o'clock.
yeah, I think so, because we can
We can
zoom in.
we'll zoom in. probably.
Commissioners can zoom in if they need to.
4 o'clock on the 14th.
4 o'clock on the 14th. That'd be great.
Yeah, I guess
You know, actually, if I'm here, as long as I have a hard stop by like, say, 4:40, 4:30, 4:40, I can get up to 61 in time. So I'd rather be in person with you guys,
All right,
you know, than Zoom.
okay, so here, station 51.
Yeah, stay here.
And I'd suggest that, you know, in the interest of as much transparency as possible. That you know, you sent us an email outlining these issues, you got this information from SNUR, et cetera, that all that stuff be, you know, as soon as we get this thing scheduled, all that stuff be posted so that people can.
Yeah.
Review that material.
I'll share the steps that he's got laid out, but people, it's Brian's steps.
Very esoteric.
Yeah, it's not gonna be.
I'm just trying to make this.
Still thinking.
As much as
Yeah, put it on.
possible.
I'm not trying to.
Because there are people out there that.
I get
I'm not trying to be sneaky.
No, I
Yeah.
understand, I'm just saying that as, to make it as. Just,
Open as it can be.
yeah, we're
No,
gonna
it's so sure.
share what it's about.
I will caution you right now that he's got in there a fire tax levy reset at $1. Because that's the maximum, he just put in $1, you know, so please don't freak out that we're going to all of a sudden have a fire tax levy in $1.
Well, I mean, I think essentially when we do it, we're in a situation now where we're relatively obligated to consider a lid lift. And
Yeah,
so we
well,
would be doing a lid lift to $1 and then dropping the benefit charge accordingly. So I mean, I think that's where we'd be going to. And
actually, my recommendation would probably be more like 90 cents. Because I think the fire benefit charge, that'll give us flexibility to raise it up or not, you know, if we want to. But it also, I think the fire benefit charge is a more appropriate measure for the revenues than the fire levy. It's more equitable, just my opinion. And so I actually like to keep the fire benefit charge high, but you're absolutely right. We will, because of what I already told you guys 15 minutes ago, we will, at some point, the fire benefit charge will reach that cap again. So the higher that fire tax levy is, the longer it takes for us to get out of balance again. You know, but it's just, that's just. The governing board, well, the RFA board would be able to set that levy rate at whatever they wanted to. So.
Okay,
Right.
so we're gonna have a special meeting on Thursday at 4. I'm gonna move us along unless anyone had any other comments. Okay. There are no board resolutions. Consent agenda is next.
I make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Report, fire chief's report.
I
Have we,
just realized I did not.
Didn't send it.
okay,
How about this? I will give you an activity report next to the special meeting.
okay.
Or preparation. I apologize. I was in Mexico and then I've been scrambling to try and catch up.
And I don't believe we've got any commissioner report.
We already, the two
Yeah, I feel like we
subcommittees
did
we've already.
everything.
hit
Okay,
that.
Actually, you know what? I will send you an activity report here tonight or tomorrow. And so you guys can have it. It won't be, and then you can post it. You know, put it to the.
Okay.
Yeah. I can put something together.
and then legal counsel report.
No legal counsel report tonight.
Thank you. Upcoming board agenda.
So there will be a special meeting held Thursday, March 14th at 4 p.m. at Station 51 and virtually on Zoom. And that meeting will be to continue the discussion of district strategic options for the August 2024 special election. And then the next regular meeting will be Tuesday, April 2nd, and that will include our normal agenda items as well as updates from the subcommittee on Station 54 and the subcommittee on outbuildings at Station 51. And I don't have any other items at this time, but there may be items generated from the special meeting.
Right, okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay. Thank you, Amy. If there's nothing further, I'm gonna adjourn us. Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
If you guys have any information that you want for the special meeting or any questions, please